Hello, my name is John Brink, and we are on the Brink in Prince George, podcasting from the northern part of the province of British Columbia. And for those people from around the world that watch us, Prince George is central BC. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. It's the fall now, and if you look outside, and we are downtown Prince George, and look around us, then it's a beautiful day, but obviously it's already early November, and winter is around the corner, but it's beautiful here year round. It's an amazing area. And we have a special guest today. Her name is Courtney, and I sometimes get your name not quite right. I just want to make sure I have it right.
Hayhurst.
Hayhurst.
Yep. Is
your name.
Yep.
And Courtney is an amazing individual. So I had, and how I got to know Courtney is that in Prince George, the city of Prince George puts on more of a contest that is where individuals bring entrepreneurial ideas to what they call the Titans Den, which is kind of copied after the Dragon's Den nationally, where they have 4 or 5 entrepreneurs that sit and listen to their presentations and ideas and have an opportunity to not only give comments, but also to potentially invest in it or become involved in that part of the business.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later, because that's where I got to meet you last week, and and obviously I was one of the Titans, and I was so impressed by your presentation, that we said, I want to get her on one of my podcasts, and here you are today. The other thing about you is that you are going to the University of Northern British Columbia, UNBC, the best university, small university in Canada, no less, and you're studying anthropology.
I am, studying anthropology is my major, and I'm minoring in Indigenous studies too.
In what?
Indigenous studies.
Indigenous studies. Now, anthropology is, I'm not overly familiar with it. Is that about the human race and what they are doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually one of those ones that's been around for, I think, since the 60s, but nobody really knows what it is. Yeah. And if they do know something about it, it's often just about what they see on television. So Indiana Jones is an anthropologist.
Right.
But it's basically just about people, culture, what they do, where they've come from, and how they've come here now and why, and looking at just what people do. So.
Yeah, and it involves Indigenous
it does,
community as well.
Especially here in Canada and North America, it's definitely looking at how we all interact and Indigenous history and stuff like that.
And so why did you take that direction? Is it a special interest you have in that area?
Absolutely. I remember growing up and getting these gifts for Christmas, and they were like these little limestone blocks with broken pieces of pottery in them.
Right.
And I would have to chisel them away and uncover the broken bits of pottery and then put it back together. And they were like my most favorite gifts I'd ever get. I didn't care about technology or anything else. I wanted those things. And I loved just playing in the dirt. And so that kind of connection to uncovering bits of history I've always loved. And I didn't actually get much education growing up in Indigenous studies or anything like that, because they didn't include that really in curriculum until after I graduated high school. So my first introduction into that and big conversations about culture really happened at university. And I just fell in love with all of the topics, because it's really asking why we do anything. Why are we people? What is humanity? How do you define that? And why are we doing what we're doing, when we're doing it, with who we're doing it? And those are questions that I just think about all the time anyways. So it just felt like it clicked with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that looks at people from not limited to Canada or British Columbia, but it looks around the world.
Yeah, all people everywhere, and looking at our evolution too. So it's looking at where we came from in Africa as hominids and monkeys and gorillas, and what our ancestors looked like and what the process was from something that walked on 4 limbs to now being bipedal on 2 legs, and what that looked like.
That's a long way back.
It's a long way back. And it's really interesting because we don't know a lot of the pieces of the puzzle. There's lots of gaps missing still that we can't find. And it's hundreds of thousands of years ago, but it's actually incredible how much we do know.
Yeah. Like for myself, just kind of thinking about that, we can look back. I was born in Holland, and then in Holland, people stay in the region, and Holland is already small, but then the place where all our family lived was about 20 kilometers away at most.
Right.
Anytime somebody went further than that, then they say, oh my God, we'll never see him again. It's going to go 50 miles away or 50 kilometers away. Oh my God, now what? And then going across the world was not really something that you did then.
No.
Or we had an aunt and an uncle that emigrated after the Second World War from Holland to the United States. Oh my God, that was a drama because we would never see him again.
No, he was just gone for good.
Gone for good. And then now, I can say, okay, something, I want to go to Amsterdam on Monday, so let's book a flight, and then I'm there 10 hours later, and then I'm going to stay there for 2 or 3 days and then go back to Canada.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Not thinking anything of it.
No, it's so normal now that we can just go wherever we want to, as long as we have money.
Yeah.
But we went from this kind of group of people that was constantly moving, following food, following water, wherever life took you, that's what happened. And then we turned into people that just stuck around and kind of stayed in their communities. And then now we've kind of gone back full circle to constantly moving and heading around. And I mean, there are lots of cultures that have always lived that way too. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So then, and anthropology also deals with the past, but does it also look forward?
It absolutely does. And it also really spends a lot of time reflecting on the present and taking what we know from the past and applying it to now to see what we can do better in the future. And that's really the goal of anthropology, is to see how can we better ourselves, not just as people, but as a society and as culture. It's taking what we know and making it better.
Yeah. And then, do you see that as part of your career going forward?
Yeah, I do. I'm really passionate about building ideas of community and feeling connected to each other and building a sense of hope and wonder in the world and in how we look at things. And I think right now with internet, we can kind of become detached from everything. We're kind of seeing everything through a screen, and we're talking to people through a screen in text, which doesn't have the same kind of emotion that being somewhere and being with people has. So I really see myself trying to bridge that gap by trying to bring those senses of beauty that exists in the world back out again. And
so that means, now you were born in Prince George. And so, which relatively speaking is a very young city. And so is Canada for all intents and purposes. Prince George was incorporated, I believe, in 1914 or so, and and it's evolving very quickly. Have you traveled quite a bit?
Not as much as I want to. I have traveled-ish. I've traveled all throughout British Columbia, actually, has been most of my travel. My dad works as a district manager for almost all of northern BC, basically, so Williams Lake and up, and he's done that since I was a kid. So most of the time we would go with him to do all of his sales and all of his stuff. And so I've been to Haida Gwaii, I've been to Fort Nelson.
Which is beautiful.
It's incredible. Actually, all parts of BC are just incredible. And I think my most favorite memories of BC, my most favorite trip at all was actually to Haida Gwaii. And I was only 9 years old when I went, but I was still able to appreciate it. It has such a a healing energy about it there, that you just feel connected in this whole way that you don't really get anywhere else. And going up there and seeing how vast like nothingness is, because towns are so far apart and all you see are these rolling hills with streams, and that's it. And it's just gorgeous. But I've also been down to the States a couple of times. Went to Disneyland. That was great.
That was good.
Not as much
in
culture. Yeah, actually I went to both of them. So now I can compare the experiences. I was really lucky. And then back in 2019, I actually had the chance to go to Sweden, which was really exciting.
How did you get there?
It was actually part of a choir competition. So I'm in a choir called Nove Voce. It's a women's treble choir in town. And we went to compete at the international level there. And
how did it go?
It went well. I mean, it definitely felt like very intimidating because we were up against these incredible choirs from around the world. But we got honorable mentions and several awards, and we did really well for ourselves. So we were there for, I think, a week and a half-ish, which was not enough time at all, but it was amazing.
Stockholm?
No, it was Gothenburg, so right on the coast.
Right on the coast,
Yeah, it was incredible. So.
That was a good experience.
It was amazing. And for my first experience going to Europe, I probably couldn't have asked for a better one.
No, how old were you then?
I was 21.
Yeah, you're still
still young.
So you had a good appreciation of it, right?
Yeah, and I went and I did so much research trying to figure out the good spots to go. I went to see a couple of castles and ruins. Oh, it was so fun.
And so just kind of looking back again then, so you were born here and then you had your schooling here. And then once you did high school, then you had to make a decision as to where would you go, college, university, and you went to UNBC.
And it was an easy choice for me, actually, because both of my parents went there and graduated there with
at UNBC.
At UNBC with a bachelor's in business and marketing. And when I was applying for scholarships coming out of high school, I received, I think, $12,000. And most of them were from UNBC. So it was the obvious choice for me to go there. And it's where my parents went, and it's actually funny, when my mom had me, she was still finishing her bachelor's degree up there, and we didn't have a bunch of family in town, so to take care of me, she would just bring me with her to class. So the university actually is like a second home for me, and I remember running the halls as like a 4-year-old jumping over some of the stuff.
Amazing.
So my connection to the school goes back really far, and it just feels like home. So.
It's so unique. I was quite involved in it when the battle went on to find the funding to create a freestanding university. It has changed the region, and and obviously it still is. And we're very fortunate with both UNBC and the College of New Caledonia.
It's so incredible to have the opportunities to get a higher education here in a smaller town up north. Not many people get those chances.
No. And then, so you started to go to university. How much longer you got to go to get your degree?
I am graduating this March.
Okay.
So this semester, then next semester, and that's it.
And then what?
A good question. I'm going to take a break, and I'd like to go and do some traveling a little bit. I think I want to go back to Haida Gwaii and experience it older, but then I plan on returning to do my master's here as well.
Okay, and how much will that take?
That'll be 2 years. It'll be a 2-year master's. And then after that, who knows?
So in the meantime, you are a bit of a, not to put it lightly, of an entrepreneur as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm working on my podcast, which is what I went on Titan's Den to present. And
now for our guests,
yes, of course.
Just to make sure, Titan's Den, as I said earlier, is again an opportunity where aspiring entrepreneurs can bring ideas and get feedback of all descriptions or investments.
Yeah.
And you were there, when was it, last week?
Oh, yeah, just last week. And yeah, I was the first one to present.
Yeah, and Courtney
Yeah.
was the first one. And to make her presentation, you were allowed, were you nervous?
Yes, I was nervous. I was less nervous about presenting because I have lots of performance stuff in my background, but this was actually the first time I've ever presented my own thing.
Yeah.
And it was my idea baby that I've cared for 2 years, and suddenly I'm asking other people to care about it too.
Yeah.
So it was very stressful trying to present it to you guys so that you would care as well. But yeah, it was such a good experience.
How did it feel?
It felt incredible. Yeah, I had only really talked about it to my friends and to some people up at the university. So talking about it with people who have no connection to me at all was really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I found, and obviously I was one of the titans, is that I have a background in podcasting, obviously, as you already know from here.
Yeah.
And then I'm a public speaker. I'm quite active in the speaking circuit, and and all of that kind of stuff. And so I always think it is very, very important to be a good presenter.
Yeah.
So that's very important. So some of the things that I saw with you, the first thing that I saw with you is your passion. So that struck me right away as somebody that you believed in what you were doing. You did present with passion, because if you don't believe, who else will, right?
Yeah.
So but you're a natural presenter, and and obviously your presentation went very, very well, right?
Thank you. And you did make some good, very good feedback though about making sure that technology was working.
Yeah.
Which I did run into issues with that. Just good comment, and I definitely felt rushed too. So it's I always have to remember to slow down.
And because you're so excited about it in a way, and
it just runs away from you.
So and again, but the more you do of it, and the more like that. The other thing that I found is, that's why I mentioned about the technology, and obviously then Alan was the fellow that indicated that he had his computers, so it was not your fault. It was Alan kind of took the blame for it, which was okay. But happens a lot of times though in presentations, or where I've been part of presenting, that probably in 50% at least of the time something goes wrong on the presenting side or the technology side. And a lot of times that's so unfortunate, because it takes away from the presentation. And yours it didn't, but the one thing that I saw is that the passion you had in it, obviously.
Thank you.
And then so that was on that part, and then then you have your podcast. The name of it is
Stories of Us.
Yeah. So, and I found that interesting. Why did you call it Stories of Us? Because you're likely indicating you're not only talking about one podcast, but about a series that will follow it. Is that attached to anthropology in a way?
Yeah. Anthropology includes a lot of work in ethnography. Oh, I just found a really long hair.
Okay.
And it's all about telling the stories of the culture that you're engaging with. So storytelling and trying to build connection between the reader and the community is really important in anthropology. And it's not just telling data about subjects, it's about telling stories about real people who exist in the world. So I really wanted to bring that idea out. And it's also the topics I'm going to look at is myth, legend, and folklore, and all of those kinds of things, which all stem around stories. And so I really wanted to talk about the story bit, how people are telling those stories, who's telling it, and how people are maybe telling them wrong, and bringing out those aspects. So And it's also kind of a way for me to trick people into caring, because people love stories, people love movies and books. And if I tell potentially boring things as a story, it'll make people more engaged.
Yeah. So you started it already.
Yeah.
How many have you done so far?
So I have written 2. One of them is still being edited, but 2 are completely written. But I actually have an entire year's worth of episodes conceptually done. I just need to do the research and keep writing them.
So how do you then present it? You invite guests to be on your podcast?
Yes and no. So there's going to be 2 kind of podcasts. So the first one is going to be just the stories, which will be just me narrating the story.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing my research for them, I want to do interviews with people. And so I'll be recording those interviews and posting them as kind of like a supplemental podcast. So yeah, people can hear right from the horse's mouth what they were saying.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah.
And so you're doing them here in Prince George, and then you use them online.
Yeah.
You have already a website set up.
I have a website. I've got social media set up.
Maybe just for our guests, tell us your website.
It is storiesofus.com. And you
that's
can.
A good one to get.
Yeah, I know. So I was really lucky that the domain was available. Otherwise, I would have had to change my name. But it works. And you can just look up Stories of Us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be there. And YouTube. I actually just made the YouTube account today. So
So you have the whole
shebang.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other business that you have is Wilderwood Creative.
So that was started because I like being creative and I like crafting things, but I work full time and I'm a full-time student. So finding the time to do that is few and far between. So I thought if I made myself an Instagram page, it would give me a little bit more motivation to start being creative. And since I started it just a couple of years ago, I've got 500 followers, and from very minimal effort, actually. So it's been really
on
great.
Wilderwood
Creative, yeah. So there's not a website right now, or yes, there is. I think there is a website. But we're on social media.
So is it on social media? If somebody would put it in?
I'm mostly present on Instagram because I found the most success there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're active on Facebook and Instagram and all those kind of medias.
But it's mostly my side hustle. Actually, right now I am selling some of the stuff I've made actually this Saturday at the Makery. So if you want to buy really fun stuff, you can.
So what is it?
So it's kind of a mix of everything I find fun. So I do murals around in town. So I go out and paint walls. But the things I'll be selling this weekend will be wood pieces that I have burned, because I do pyrography, which is like a little metal tool that heats up, and then I do fun drawings on wood. And then I also paint, and I do digital illustrations. And so I've made prints of all of those kinds of things.
So you're quite an artist.
Yeah.
So where did you acquire that? You like to work with your hands?
Yeah, I love working with my hands. I'm very talkative with my hands too. I always have to be doing something. But I really get that from my mom, I think, because she's an artist and has always taught me to love creativity, and she's really empowered my creativity. And just running off of her creativity has made me creative too.
Yeah. Have you got any other siblings? Or?
No, I'm an only child. So all of that creative energy was just honed right on into me.
So tell us a little bit about your mom, because as I understand it, she went to uni in BC as well. Yeah,
so her name is Kimberly Hayhurst. She was also born and raised here in town. And she also went to the university, and right now she's actually has her own business too, an entrepreneur family at heart. It's called The Makery, and so it's a craft and coffee bar.
Okay, where?
Right downtown, actually, on George and 5th, right across, right over
close,
there.
right there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and so it's been open for just over a year now, which is super exciting. Yeah.
And your dad, what does he do?
He is the regional district manager for Carlton Cards. So he represents Northern BC and their greeting cards. Yeah.
What kind of cars you say?
Cards, like greeting cards.
Oh,
and,
okay.
happy birthdays, all those kinds of things.
So he does all of that in Northern BC as well.
Yeah.
And other things that you like to do, like sports and...
Oh man, I'm definitely not a sporty person. I'm very uncoordinated. I love reading, I love art, and I love singing. I just like art in all of its forms, and yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about singing, because I always liked listening to choirs and, so what type of music are you involved in? Are you still actively involved?
I am, yeah. So I'm still in choir.
Weekly or?
Weekly here. It's called Nove Voce, and it's an internationally competitive women's treble choir. So it's just a group of women who get together and sing really cool songs. But I started singing when I was 4 years old, and I've since taken voice lessons all the way through to my life. And really what my focus ended up being on, it was actually classical music. So singing things like Mozart and Schubert, and so very akin to opera is kind of what I've done. And I've gone on to represent Prince George and Northern BC at provincials and stuff like that.
Yeah, another thing interesting about Prince George, and as I said to you, I was born in Holland. And obviously all of that is done a lot in Holland, and that Prince George has a symphony. And which is amazing.
It is.
For a relatively small community to have that. Have you been involved with them at all?
Yeah, lots. We've done lots of choir concerts with them. A really cool one I did actually when I was 5 years old is UBC Opera came up and worked with the Prince George Symphony to present La Bohème. And I actually got a solo.
Very, very well known.
Yes, a lovely opera, and I actually had a solo in that opera as 5 years old, and it was incredible. So I've always treasured that, and there's been lots of other little operas going on in town too. So I've performed in some of those, in like the Magic Flute, and in there's one called Colin and Colinette that I had a little solo in too. So lots of really fun little things I've done singing-wise. But back in a few years ago now, they started this kinder concert where they would perform fun little, maybe hour-long things for kids. And they asked me to be the first presenter of that. So I worked with the symphony and the percussion section to put on something called Bangers and Smash for kids, and it was a big hit. So lots of really fun stuff with them, as well as the Northern Symphony as well. That's just of all over Northern BC. So, it's amazing, for a city the size of Prince George, that it has so much talent in those areas. And lots of opportunity, you don't get the opportunity to sing solos with the symphony in Vancouver or anywhere else.
No.
It's just one of the amazing things of being here in Prince George, that you have those incredible institutions as well as the opportunity to get involved. So
if you look forward, what do you see your career look like in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years?
I don't know. It's so much to look forward to. I definitely am the kind of person that takes on a lot and really likes to go hard at everything I do. I'm definitely going back and doing my master's, but after that, I'm kind of keeping my door open. My partner is going to medical school, potentially to go into psychiatry.
Also here?
Also here at UNBC.
Isn't it amazing?
There's so many incredible things here. So I'm keeping my doors open. I'd love to travel. I'd love to see more of the world and really apply my degree to what I'm seeing around the world. And I think eventually I'd like to go on and complete my PhD. So we'll see where that goes.
Would you be able to do that here?
Not here in the program I'd like to, but I've been maybe thinking of going over and doing it in Scotland or something like that.
That would be nice.
It would be amazing.
And how far is your partner now in the medical side?
So he is in his second year of his psychology degree, and he's still a little bit away, so he still has to write the MCAT and still go on to med school and do residency and stuff.
But doing it all here?
Yeah, potentially. He's going to apply to a bunch of different places, but here he's got the best shot of getting in. So,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else that you like to talk about? Or?
Oh man, I don't know. That's kind of it. That's kind of me.
Now, another thing that I want to do is because, what I did is I wrote a book. It took me 80 years to live it.
Yeah.
I turned 81 actually on Monday.
Wow, congratulations.
Well, thank you. And it took me 20 years to think about it and 2 years to write it.
Wow.
So I have a book here. I signed it to Courtney, all the best, and it's signed in, So Courtney, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, John. It was lovely to meet you too.
Yeah. And so there we had Courtney Hayhurst, and an amazing individual. We really had a pleasure as a Titan to listen to her business proposal, and obviously she has very interesting studies that she's following, and a great future ahead of us. So thank you for watching.